I'll try to balance out the degen behavior, and then we'll find an even keel.
I see the sappy seals. So
I think me and Alan tried to meet up at ETH Denver, but never didn't work out.
Alan, you wanna raise your hand?
So the one that got away.
No, the one is here.
The seal that got away.
The seal is amongst us. Alan, say something.
Hilarious.
Gandalf, your voice is angelic, man. I'm telling you, like, that's all I need in my life is to hear a little bit more of Gandalf, and my dreams will literally come true.
All right, sweet. All right, well, let's kick it off. Welcome, Arbitrum, to an AMA with Hashflow, and we'll start with some intros from you guys. Why don't we start with you, Gandalf, or Varun?
Gandalf the Brown, specifically. but otherwise, I also go by Varun. It's like the band Maroon 5.
Any relation? Any relation to Radagast the Brown?
No, it was more like I mean, not related. Maybe there might be some blood relation. I'll have to do 23andMe to find out. Oh, it's just, I haven't checked that out yet. But no. This was like a interesting joke. Where back in the day I was playing Counter-Strike, and then I was like Gandalf the White in there. And then everyone was like, "Why are you Gandalf the White? You're not even white." I'm like, "Fair enough. I'm Gandalf the Brown." And then that became my name everywhere. This was like 15 years ago, and now that just stays.
My God, a name that stuck 15 years. That's longer than crypto blockchain's been around. I think. I don't know. But,
possibly.
All right. Well, so let's start with some formal intros, beyond the insiders. All right, who you are, what you do at Hashflow, and maybe even like how you got into it.
Of course, no, for sure. The more boring intro of myself. So guys, I'm Varun, co-founder and CEO at Hashflow. Before crypto, I was a big space nerd. I was a former PhD, wannabe PhD student, but dropped out from Stanford Aeroastro. So I was a aerospace engineer and physicist before this. And aspiring astronaut, which is also why I kind of like Argonaut's name. It's a great brand name, by the way. I'm like, so that's my intro. And I got into crypto in 2016, 17, and then since then, it's been different. It's been an exciting journey till date. I paused here. Yeah. That's well paused. Although I think I have two.
Who's next? Who's next on here?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hey guys. So I'm Thibaut, Ayo Thibaut. I joined Hashflow a little bit over 8 months ago, and just managing growth and strategy. Some marketing. Working very closely with Alan and Varun on all things marketing, Twitter, etc. But yeah, it's great to be here.
Alan, would you care for an intro?
I think Alan might be rugged right now. I think he went to go get some lunch. I don't know. So let's maybe just skip him for now. I think he'll be back because we're at the office right now. He'll be back in a second. Yeah,
that's fair. It was sounding windy over there. And is the Hashflow account anyone there hidden, or it's just hanging out?
It's just gonna chill out, I think. Yeah, that's just
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. All right. Well, yeah. Why don't you guys explain a bit about what Hashflow is to the community?
No, absolutely. I can take that one actually. Yes. So first of all, Hashflow is a decentralized exchange, right? And more importantly, we just finished doing 1 billion in trading volume on Arbitrum. So I think starting with the big news, right? Well, kind of like a 4 weeks old news, but it's always big. Every time you see 1 billion, I like that number. So now more specifically, Hashflow is a decent
1 billion.
1 billion. 99 more to go. I think would be nice. Hopefully next time we talk, we'll be there. Yes. So more specifically, Hashflow is a simple terms. It's a decentralized exchange. More specifically, it's a RFQ system. Or DeFi native RFQ. And the way it works, the mechanics is you're basically decoupling pricing. So instead of doing pricing on chain like other AMMs, you basically price assets off chain, and then you handle execution on chain. And what this means for you as a trader is you can basically get much tighter spreads. You can trade without worrying about any kind of front running or MEV, and all your quotes are guaranteed. Or like basically, if you are promised that you're going to receive 30 ETH for $10, then that's what you'll receive, right? Hopefully that was true, but unfortunately that price, I can't get that trade anymore. But the idea is it's a guaranteed execution, and this applies both to single chain or if you decide to go cross chain, right? So that's the general idea of why Hashflow is interesting, right? So I would stop here, and Eli, feel free to ask me all the follow-up questions you got.
Yeah. Just like I guess what the big differentiators from other DEX that people would not traditionally be familiar with.
No, absolutely. I think maybe it makes sense for me to give a quick background on DEXs so that it kind of.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah. So I think generally DEXs are interesting is because, or more specifically, exchanges, you need them because there's several crypto assets now, and as a result, you need a platform to trade. Right? Centralized exchanges, extremely performant, but the risk comes with counterparty risk of exchanges holding your funds in custody. Right? So decentralized exchanges are really good in the sense that they don't necessarily have an order book, but at the same time, they allow you to trade directly from your wallet, right? So which means you don't have to worry about the counterparty risk that comes with you custodying your funds with an exchange. But now, in the decentralized exchanges themselves, there's like various different kinds, right? Like, you've got the AMMs, which basically what they do is they have this pricing formula, and that formula is used to determine the exchange rate of an asset, right? So the way it determines the price is by using, like anyone can go and deposit assets in the smart contract, and then it uses the supply of these assets and the ratio in which these assets are present to basically apply this formula, the X times Y equals K, to be more specific, right? At least UniV2 did that. And then they use that formula to basically derive the exchange rate, and then users can trade against that, right? So Hashflow is slightly different in the sense that it doesn't necessarily limit itself to one pricing formula. In fact, by decoupling pricing logic and saying, let's let the market makers handle pricing off-chain, they can basically use any kind of pricing logic to basically quote price that is much more comparable or closer to the mid-market price, right? So the idea is, traditionally the AMMs, the way they work is they rely on creating arbitrage opportunities for traders who can basically monitor the price feed on centralized venues and then look for arbitrage and then trade against a smart contract to keep the price closer to the mid-market price. The way Hashflow works is it basically allows market makers to directly quote here. So it makes the price discovery far more efficient. It makes the liquidity provisioning far more efficient because you don't need to park tons of capital here. It's rather liquidity on demand, that whenever there is a request for a quote, that's when you respond to it. Otherwise, you're no longer limited to or required to park tons of capital here that could otherwise be used elsewhere, right? So it makes the market structure far more capital efficient from a point of view of capital deployment, but also from a trading perspective, does away with basically issues that we talked about, like MEV or front running and things like that. So from a user perspective, it's a far more superior experience where you are pretty much guaranteed what you're going to receive, and you don't have to worry about things like slippage or receiving something completely different than what you saw because of on-chain attack vectors, right? So that's a bit of a long answer, but hopefully I covered a bit of it, the background as well as the differentiators. But I'll pause there and let you.
No, that's perfect. That's actually a shorter and simpler explanation than I've heard before about DEXs. So well done there. So I guess around DEXs, what made you guys want to launch a DEX? Maybe you want to talk a bit about how you guys feel around DeFi and what decentralized exchanges can provide in that space relative to the counterparty, which would be a centralized exchange.
Yeah. So I think generally there is a world in which there's a everyone can coexist, right? I'm not we're not in the boat where we're saying like centralized exchange is bad, decentralized exchange is good, or decentralized exchanges are bad and centralized is good, right? Because they both have their own merits and shortcomings, right? So the benefits of using a central limit order book is that's the best way to have price discovery, right? You have an order book, everyone can place the bids and asks, and then basically over time you build up the order book, and then you have a pretty good price discovery. And in fact, that price is used as a reference to trade against many of the DEXs anyway, right? So if you were to take away Binance order book, then it'll be really, really hard to determine what's the price of an asset, right? And that's the cheap way to trade, and that's also why you see plenty of the retail and most of the market share is concentrated in that order book, right? So there is an advantage to having a central limit order book because it helps with finding the right price for an asset. Now, the trade-off obviously is that you custody your assets with the exchange, which means in a world where things could go wrong, you end up with something like FTX, where all your funds could be used in a way that is not quite what you expected, right? And you might end up losing money. So that's the big trade-off. It's actually a really, really big attack vector. Now, decentralized exchanges, on the other hand, right? They solve for this attack vector by saying, like, you know what, your crypto stays in your wallet, and you trade directly from your wallet, and it's going to take your money in custody. You are in charge, right? So which means it gives you far more freedom in terms of what you could do to funds, and you're no longer subject to the counterparty risk that comes with exchange custody. And the trade-off, though, is it's not quite as performant as a centralized exchange, and it's also hard to build a order book on chain, right? So as a result, it's really hard to do the price discovery the way you could on a central limit order book, right? That's a trade-off, and I think currently, as a result, both have their merits and shortcomings, as my initial statement. But I think the way we are going, where DeFi is headed, I think, in my opinion, if we can build something where we can scale to first of all, what DeFi is doing is it's making finance open sourced. Because previously, before DeFi, it was a closed system with the gatekeepers who could prevent you from access to finance. And what DeFi did is it allowed everyone to openly access finance and freely experiment with monetary policy, which wasn't actually even a possibility, right, 10 years ago. And now, with Bitcoin, it turned money into a service that anyone can offer. Like, you no longer have to rely on your state to enforce the use of money and basically control the supply and demand of the currency units to basically push policy goals. Right? So Bitcoin truly turned money into something that doesn't need to be controlled by your state. And then what DeFi did is it applied that to Wall Street and finance. It said, your finance doesn't need to be limited to certain gatekeepers and players or insiders. Anyone can freely participate and build and create things, which was a shift in the status quo of what used to be the thing, right? So and now I think the place we are, I think the ingredients are there, all the puzzle pieces are there. We just need to put them together to basically build something that scales, right? And I think Arbitrum obviously is a big player, probably one of the best positioned projects that can actually help DeFi scale, right? So I'm pretty bullish on Arbitrum, and I think this could be fantastic, right? Like, if you can get DeFi to scale, I think it'll be the world we all want to live in, right? So I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, 100%, unbiased. I'm curious because I it's okay if there's no answer for this, but what are the I guess challenges and cons of DEXs, and not even just running them, but just in general? I feel like that's something that people should maybe talk about more from a learning standpoint or prevention standpoint even, and how to improve everything. And maybe how are you guys working towards new technologies and ways of using it to improve that vector?
Eli, just to repeat your question again, you said what are the cons of using or building a DEX? Is that the question?
Yeah, like what are some of the challenges around DEXs? Like we know like they're very obvious with centralized exchanges, but I think it's less obvious to people around decentralized exchanges.
I think the big challenge I would say is scaling, right, and performance. So if you want to have price discovery that is independent of receiving signals from a centralized exchange, it's really hard to do price discovery on DEXs. Like if you're doing all the pricing on chain, it becomes really tricky because you can't just apply one formula and expect that to tell you the right price at any given time, because there are plenty of external factors that your smart contract wouldn't factor in because it doesn't know, right? All it does is it's like a vending machine, right? Like that will it will just use the predefined formula and keep giving you quotes no matter what happens in the market, right? So that's not ideal. Now, on the other hand, it's like if you move the price discovery off chain, that still doesn't quite the best you could do what we're doing right now is an RFQ, right? So where you get quotes off chain and then you do execution on chain, but that still means that you have to run every execution on chain, which over time ends up costing users gas and so on. So it's still not quite there in terms of performance as something like trading on a central limit order book, right? So that's the current big challenge, right? So regardless of whether it's Hashflow or you're using another DEX, that's like the big thing, which again, at the end of the day, you're building products that users can use and have a great experience, right? So, and if that's not the case, then we've kind of failed at that, right? So I'm like, how do we address these things to make a really good experience for an end user? So that's like the big challenge. And I think as time progresses, I think we are becoming, as we have been looking into space a lot more, I think it's becoming more obvious that the big challenge with exchange, we need to optimize for two things, right? One is performance, and the other one is exchange counterparty risk. So if we can address these two things in a way, whether it's centralized, decentralized is a different argument, right? So I think that's an ideological debate. But more importantly, what we need to have is something that is really performant, that where it can compete with the likes of Binance or formerly FTX and such, but doesn't come with a counterparty risk of exchanges custodying the funds. I think that would be a pretty good sweet spot to get to, right? We're not quite there yet, but I think that's what we're looking into as a next iteration of Hashflow as well. I just think that's the big challenge. I think if you can address that, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, and what are some of the ways you feel like you guys are working towards addressing some of the challenges, if any of it is public or currently even active?
It's not public yet. It is an alpha.
Oh no.
No, you're leading me to give you more secrets, mate.
That's what people are here for, don't you know?
All I can say is there is a limit order book on the roadmap, right? So we haven't announced the architecture yet. How are we going to build that? But that alpha is going to drop in the upcoming months. But we do want to solve that problem to make the price discovery far more efficient for anyone to be able to trade any asset class and do it without having to worry about the gas fees and any performance degradation, right? So that's something that we'll be addressing, and I think that's very much on the roadmap. Hopefully, we deliver that by end of this year, right? So,
okay, so it's like half alpha.
It's alpha.
Yeah,
exactly.
You got it it's on the roadmap, but you just haven't shown all the details around how it's going to work. That's great. Maybe on that note, talking a bit about other things that are upcoming, even in the more short term to midterm.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So I think the biggest short term right now, I think the thing that the word on the block is that the Hashverse is coming out, right? And I think perhaps Alan, Thibaut, you guys want to talk about it a bit more. So maybe I'll give you guys a bit of a spotlight here. I feel like I've been the one talking. So if you guys want to go ahead.
Yeah, sure, Vern. I'll give you a quick break. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of what's coming up, the Hashverse is really front and center. So you have the account there joining us as well. And so essentially, what the Hashverse is our Storyverse gamified DAO experience. So we're really just trying to make DAOs fun, and we're building this in a way that's super interactive, that kind of has like team play, multiplayer mode, single player mode. We're bringing in like an NFT component, etc. So I think our thesis is pretty straightforward, right? Like we see that DAOs are pretty interesting in terms of like the infrastructure and like what they can offer, but we haven't seen that many DAOs that are actually getting the traction and the love that they need to function, because it's kind of like a two-way street in that sense. Like you want decentralized governance, you want all these things for your protocol. But governance itself sometimes is not enough of a value proposition to actually get good engagements, get good communities involved, etc. So the Hashverse is what we're building around that, and definitely come check it out. I think it's going to be a super interesting launch for us, and really that's front and center for Hashflow.
So to add to that, I think shortly, like Thibaut described, like Hashverse is basically the governance platform of Hashflow, but it's going to be far more fun and engaging, right? So at the core of everything is a story, right? So I think we've worked with Superconductor, the guys who worked on Avengers movie, Captain America, Fast and Furious franchise. So we've been working closely with them to develop the story for the Hashverse, and I think it's going to be the most degen experience that you will see. And I think we've been working with, in fact, some of the alpha allegiances, including Lost Donkeys and Fungi Alpha and Primates. So I think that's some alpha right here. so I think it'll be very much working closely with a bunch of the Arbitrum communities to make this happen. So I think this.
Okay, so you opened up a can of worms here.
I know.
You said something called the alpha allegiances, which I don't even know what that is. So now I need alpha on the alpha.
You need the alpha on the alpha squared.
Yes.
No. I think some great sage once said, like, there's no place like Arbitrum. So I think we took that saying too seriously. So the general idea of the Hashverse allegiance is that it's going to be a team-based governance participation, right? So I think the way it's going to work is the idea is to drive obviously more community participation, and because at the end of the day, it's a project that is community driven, right? So what we want is for people to partake in the product directly, obviously, but we also want to make it fun. Yeah, we want everyone to partake and have a good time, right? So I think at the end of the day, that's really, really what's it about, is how do you participate and grow as a community together, right? And that's what Hashverse is about. And a bunch of these quests, I think now I'm adding more alpha, are going to be very much team-based, right? And people will be able to have their allegiances and tribes to partake and compete with each other, right? So I think, and that's the general idea, is how do you compete? It's like and participate as a team, and then bring glory to your community, right? And I think we've been working with various DAOs, right, who have been fairly active in the community to basically over time build up and compete with each other. Maybe if you guys have minted some of those NFT collections a couple of weeks ago on Magic Eden, now you know how your allegiances can use those things to kind of attack, defend each other against other tribes, right? So I think that's going to be the fun aspect of participation of the gameplay, right? So and I gave you like 3 allegiances so far. We're working with more. In fact, if anyone else here wants to have their communities be represented, reach out to us, and I think we are adding more allegiances as we go before the launch. So come on over.
And that's for the Hashverse, correct?
That is correct.
And then you mentioned some questing there. So what might like questing look like, and what are the incentives around that, other than it hopefully being really fun?
Thibaut, did we announce those things yet, or are we allowed to say it yet? I don't know.
I mean, at a high level.
Or do I make the rules here? Okay.
So you can say whatever you want.
Okay. I'll give you a general idea of the quests. So some quests are going to be focused on basically trading groups, right? Because Hashflow traditionally is a decentralized exchange. So I think a bunch of the quests will be focused on trading competitions and people competing with each other. to basically compete for P&L, and obviously Hashrate rewards, which includes more unique NFT collections, HFTs, and turns out I think we also have a bunch of ARB tokens that we received from your thanks to your generosity. So maybe there might be some of that too. so that's going to be the component, right? So and then besides that, you don't have to be a trader, right? Even if you contribute in terms of just active participation, creating artwork, memes, and just be an active member, be the hype man, right? I think it's going to be adding towards your tribe or allegiance score. So basically, it's all team based, and the stronger your team is, the team dynamic is, the higher your chances of bringing glory to your team, right? So or your allegiance. So that's the general idea.
I'm curious. I don't think I've ever seen a DEX specifically participate in the gaming space. I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but that's pretty cool. So like, what inspired that kind of direction?
So at the end of the day, like, we are like a bunch of gaming nerds, right? So we're like, so one day we were like, all right, so this sounds interesting. And what's a great way to drive more people to get excited about the DAO, right? At the end of the day, we're like, okay, gaming is the best way to build that kind of community engagement. I think that's one of the things where we're like, as I grew up, like, what brought me together? I've made so many friends online. What was that thing that made me become part of something and care for it, right? So I think it was games. So to me, I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, crypto more broadly is about building strong communities that have like the loyalty and fan base towards a brand. And what does that? How do you build that? And to me, I was like, okay, if you can, even if it's not a full-on RPG game, if it has the components of gamification and fantasy and storytelling, that actually gives me a purpose. It actually gives me something to look forward to. And I think that's the way to build communities, right? So I strongly think that this is going to be a playbook that many teams will start applying, because that's the key insight we had, is like, yes, we have a product that works really, really well, and that actually builds a really, really good user experience for everybody. But then also a broader thing that goes beyond just a a product that allows you to trade is, how do you build brand loyalty, and over time, how do you build a community that's gonna stay with you and we can grow together, right? And I think gaming is a critical component of that, right? So I think that's the reason why we decided to go this direction. I think it's an experiment, right? It could royally fail, and it'll be like, whatever, right? So on the other hand, if it works, it's going to be great, right? So we'll see. It hasn't launched yet, but fingers crossed. But so far, I think things are looking really, really positive. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you guys, like, your model isn't a game. Like, it's a trading platform, a decentralized exchange. So
yeah,
because
at the end of the day,
you guys do something really cool and new that, like you said, people will likely try to mimic, as we've seen in this space. And then worst case, well, keep trading.
Dominance token, no different than anybody else.
But that's awesome. That's exciting. We could have a whole other AMA to talk in more details around the Hashverse, but I guess simply put, like, when and how can people start to get involved with it?
I think someone tweeted May, right? I think that someone is actually our profile. So I think
who tweeted
that's a good time.
Who tweeted May?
so sometime in May is what we are thinking. Yes.
All right, amazing. And I saw some Hashflow ledgers.
Thibaut, tell us more about it. Why are we giving away ledgers to people for no reason?
Yeah. That's a good question. No, I think, essentially the ledgers, we it's a signal, right? We care about the security. We care about, keeping those Hashverse artifacts, safe and everything else around it. And, we just think they look great. So, come interact and win some ledgers. We love giving those away. Honestly, it's a good time.
They look like a nice sports car. How can I get one? And by I mean everyone, I guess.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I mean you, Eli. I know.
And by everyone else, I mean me.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe we should start selling these. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of demand for these. They look great. I think we have a great designer, and a lot of people are trying to snatch one of these up. So yeah, there's going to be a ton of these giveaways, ledgers, and other things. So definitely, I think the Hashverse account is the center of it all. So that's where we go check it out.
I think definitely hang on to some for some, trading workshops and conference meetups, things like that. I think that'd be a fun thing to give away to some people willing to come out and meet you guys and get involved in person.
For sure, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to learning more about Hashverse. Is there any like gameplay footage or anything out there yet?
No, nothing.
Not yet, but it's in the work.
Can I ask how
what you have tagged up there, that video trailer, it's kind of like context setting, right? Because there's the story is pretty extensive, but it's also going to keep expanding over time as the Hashverse kind of matures. But that trailer, I think, just kind of sets the stage for what's coming, and the battles that are kind of in the works. And so yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of more alpha to be announced, and then story and characters and creative that's coming as well.
Yeah, I'd watched it. It kind of looks sci-fi, intergalactic. It's kind of like an analogy for the being across planets, across chains, things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the story is set in a fictional world of Renova. I think we're gonna release. I think we kind of talked a bit about the story, but I think we're gonna be releasing more story components shortly, so people will kind of have a bit of a background on who these characters are, what's the fictional world about, right? And I think it's gonna be exciting. And then in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you can expect us to also give access to a few people to try out the quest play, right? And then basically release them before the actual thing is completely live, right? So I think there's a lot to be coming to expect in the upcoming weeks.
Building out that lore through campaigns and branding and everything. And then I'm curious from a degen perspective, are there going to be any Easter eggs, like some insiders? Maybe we'll see NPC versions of you guys or something in there. You built this thing. It kind of feels only appropriate.
So I'll give a hint there. I'll put an Easter egg in an Easter egg. So I think I spoke about something about allegiances earlier. Maybe I did some name dropping too, like things like Lost Donkeys and Primates and Fungi Alpha. And now you said something about, are we going to see some characters in the play, right? I'll let you connect the dots from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let the community connect the dots. Somebody can DM me what they've connected, and I'll accept that as free alpha. All right, thanks a lot. That's great. All right, I'll reserve any more Hashverse questions for once it's live and we have a follow-up AMA or some gaming content around that.
No, absolutely. I think maybe we should do another one. Maybe once the things are about to go live, perhaps maybe the first quest might also be based on Arbitrum, right? I don't know. So I'm just saying these things.
Let's just throw it all on Arbitrum. Forget it.
Exactly.
Scrap the cross-chain model. It's just all going on Arbitrum. Native DEX. Let's go.
It's a one-way cross-chain swap.
It's cross-chain just for the buzzword, but it's one way. You just put that as a prefix.
Exactly. The other way doesn't work by design.
Yeah, I mean your devs would probably find that easier, but yeah, that's funny. All right, that's awesome, guys. I mean, if there's anything else we didn't cover, please plug it in now if you'd like.
I think we covered most of the things, at least from my side. So open to any community questions, but also would love to do another space as the Hashverse comes, is nearing launch. I think we definitely would be needing something on that. there's so much more to cover as we unravel more mysteries over time.
All right. Well, somebody needs to add me into that Telegram group then, because we'll have to discuss some private details behind the scenes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks a lot. That was a lot of fun. I don't often get to talk about DEXs and then a game like a hash verse in one sentence. So
no, I think we try to be different, somewhat. Hopefully, work. but no, I think this is gonna be fun. I think I'm super excited because at the end of the day, I think we're building things to have fun and build cool things while we're at it. Right. So I think that's the general idea, and I think build great experiences for the users and have fun building it. Right. So I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think there was a game on Arbitrum a while back I was talking to about, the potential when you integrate financial tools and trading platforms into gaming. It can lend you into an area where you could lean into education quite a bit from an onboarding standpoint, as long as it's somewhat seamless and integrated in that way. So it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think that's all from my end, though. Thibaut, Alan, if you guys want to add something, go ahead. But this was fantastic. Like, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun, and thank you, everyone. And where can we send people to learn more? Where documents, websites, Discords? Now's your chance.
We got a Twitter. It says @Hashflow. We also got a new Twitter handle @Hashverse. And you can also come to our Discord channel. We've got a link tree on each of those, and you can use that to find our Discord. We're generally hanging out there. So I think, or just our DMs are also open. So if you guys got interesting ideas, want to participate, I think reach out to any of us. I think we are always here. And I think this will be fun.
All right, fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
I like this Arbitrum Hashcan crossover. What's that?
Yeah.